We've got a lot to discuss on this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. Donald Trump's approval hitting record lows. Donald Trump even underwater amongst non-college white voters. Talk about that. Even Alex Jones is saying that Donald Trump needs to be impeached immediately and the 25th Amendment needs to be invoked. Well, you have war spreading everywhere. We have strikes on a port in Egypt. We have attacks in Sana'a in Yemen. We have attacks by the United States on Iran, Iran responding, attacking Bahrain and Kuwait and Jordan. You have U.S.-Saudi attacks in Iraq on Iranian militias. You have big strikes by Russia in Kyiv. They hit a major weapons drone depot recently as well, and a U.S. manufacturing plant was hit in Ukraine. You've got Ukraine hitting these Wildberry logistical facilities in Russia, which is like the Russia version of Amazon. You have Russian ballistics actually going through Poland, and one fell in Poland's territorial region. We'll talk about that. On the domestic front, you still have MeidasTouch host Katie Phang pushing forward with her lawsuit and preliminary injunction for the release of the Epstein files. Federal judge reviewing some of those files in camera, meaning the judge is viewing it with nobody else in the room. That Katie Phang sued for the release of the Epstein files. His nomination right now is being stalled, at least as of this recording. Well, I have no faith even in these Republicans, John Cornyn and Tom Tillis, to ever do the right thing, because they never do the right thing. They're at least saying until there's a written document voiding Trump's settlement with the federal government to give himself a super pardon regarding no tax audits, no criminal investigations into his taxes going back basically forever, they're not going to agree to Todd Blanche. Donald Trump then said, well, then I'm going to pull Todd Blanche's nomination and we'll wait until after the elections. That's how important it is for Donald Trump, apparently, that there's no written document that says they're voiding the settlement agreement. So Blanche said it, in hearings, and Blanche said it, DOJ officials said it to the federal judge. The loophole that Cornyn was able to expose during his question of Blanche was that in order for you to void the written agreement between Trump and the federal government, you need a written instrument to overturn the written settlement agreement. And so that's why they don't want to put anything in writing. And that's been fully exposed right now. So much so that Trump will push the nomination, he says, until after the midterms. But that just makes the midterms also an indictment on the Epstein files and this level of corruption. I think that's important to note. Bad GDP numbers came in today, 1.5% annualized rate, when the Trump regime promised by now there would be 6% growth. Of course, they're fraudsters. They lie about everything. One of the big pushes this week is Dr. Fauci, apparently, and they had the hearing with Dr. Fauci, and because things are so bad right now in the United States, our economy is being crushed by the unlawful and catastrophic war in Iran, which is to distract from the Epstein files, that the Trump regime now wants to distract with talking about the pandemic again, and again, how bad things were then, to distract from how worse, I don't know, how bad things are now. You're smarter than me. You tell me what the plan is there. And then we should be paying attention as well to what's going on with FIFA, where Gianni Infantino, working with the Kushners and Trump, trying to create a holdco, a parent company, to sell off FIFA's World Cup to private equity, 20% to one of Kushner's brother's company, Thrive, or whatever the hell it's called. UEFA, the European Football League, CONCACAF, the other major conference, they're all saying, well, there won't be a World Cup if you do that. We're boycotting it. So the fact that you have UEFA and CONCACAF all saying no more World Cup, it's like, really, Trump regime? Like, you're destroying everything. And we got a glimpse of happiness through all these dark days of the World Cup, not because of Trump and Infantino, but because football internationally, or we call it soccer in the United States, bring people together. And they're like, how do we ruin this thing? Let's take it over with private equity. And fortunately, in UEFA and CONCACAF and these major football associations are like, nope. And that may now be the undoing of Infantino. And hopefully this is a no confidence and we get this sicko the hell out of here. We got a lot to discuss. Brett, how are you doing?
So much corruption, so little time, but we're going to do our best to go through it, Ben. It's good to see you, Ben. Jordy is not going to be with us tonight. Jordy's on daddy duty, but shout out to Jordy. We know Jordy is fan favorite here at MeidasTouch. Things are bad, as you said, Ben, when they are trying to distract from the Epstein files and the war to cover it up and the crashing economy by directing everybody's attention to the glory days of 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. Those wonderful years of 2020 where we couldn't leave our homes, where everybody was scared of getting sick, and where we had a president telling us to inject bleach, the good old days. It really does frustrate me, though, that it seems like so many, even in the kind of legacy media and people who kind of consider themselves to be kind of, straight shooter, I'm a moderate type people, a lot of people just memory hold how bad COVID truly was. I think the experience was so traumatic for so many people, and we lost so many loved ones, and so many people are still living with the consequences of the pandemic, that I think when there are moments of such extreme trauma, people, even as a kind of coping mechanism and a survival mechanism, kind of try to memory hole things like that. And I feel like we've seen that. And now you see, I feel like the Republicans and MAGA, Donald Trump, they're trying to kind of use that trauma that they created and the memory hole that so many people have kind of done with COVID now in order to exploit that, to distract from their endless failures, to distract from the Epstein files, to distract from the war, high prices. But, like we said about COVID back then, the reality hits you, at some point. The reality hits you hard. It cuts right through the propaganda. And while Donald Trump could say that everything was okay, people saw people dying every day. They saw they were losing their family members. They were getting sick. Today, people are going to the grocery store. They're seeing their prices are higher. They're going to the gas station. They're seeing they're paying more at the pump. They're seeing that we're losing soldiers overseas. You could only lie to people for so long before it catches up to you. That's where we are right now in this Trump regime. And that's why the bottom is falling out again on Donald Trump's approval rating.
I'm watching some of this state regime news like Newsmax and Fox, and I want to understand, like, things are really bad. So, like, what are they doing? What are they trying to push for their viewers, as it's a dwindling and dwindling base? And I constantly see myself or hear myself out loud saying, WTF, like what in the F is going on? I mean, so, earlier today you had MAGA Republican Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, and he was like, with Fauci, one of the big issues, he fear-mongered with COVID, just like he fear-mongered with AIDS, AIDS and HIV. Well, he acted like that was a big deal. He just wanted to get on TV for AIDS and HIV. And I'm like, what are you saying? This is your platform going in general. Who cares if it's going into the midterms? That AIDS and HIV also was a nothing burger? What the hell? Here, play this clip of Johnson.
The injection injuries, the economic devastation, it never should have happened, but it all happened because of St. Fauci fear-mongering, scaremongering, just like he did with AIDS. If you remember that, AIDS, it could be, household transmission. No, that's not it. Yeah. But he did that same way because he wanted to get a vaccine. Again, he's a vaccinologist. Mm-hmm. He admitted in October 2019 in Milken Institute panel.
And while the House of Representatives is shut down, you've got MAGA Republican Congress member John McGuire, who's like, you all remember the human fetus burgers? You remember those? The human fetus BLT sandwiches? They're like, yeah. I'm like, what? The human fetus BLT sandwich? What are you talking about? People are having their health care ripped away. Trump and Netanyahu are in a never-ending war. People can't afford. You talk BLT fetus burgers? And what are you saying? Here, play this clip.
It's crazy. I don't know if you heard about the BLT sandwich using human fetus baby parts in the vaccine when they could have used ivermectin. But
okay,
these people are freaking nuts. And here's the thing I don't understand, Ben. It's that there are so many think pieces and so much endless conversation like, are the Democrats too radical? Are the Democrats weird? Are the Democrats crazy? Like, this is a constant refrain that you hear from people who write like op-eds in the Washington Post and obviously people on Fox, but people on other mainstream kind of networks as well. These Republicans are like the most batshit crazy people. And I think this is like such an op by all these people in order to cover for just how freaking nuts these people are. Ron Johnson was one of the biggest disinformation spreaders of the pandemic. And he is specifically saying stuff like that, ironically, accusing Fauci of wanting to get on TV so that his clips get played on Fox, so that his clips get played on TV and that they're shared. That's why he's doing it. So it is, again, another form of projection. And also, did y'all notice Laura frickin' Ingraham in the background? Speaking of Fox, the frickin' drama that we are seeing. You have Laura Ingraham in the background just making faces at Dr. Fauci the entire time, acting so distraught. Oh, woe is me. I'm Laura Ingraham. And then there was this moment where, they had this planned thing with one of the senators in the hearing where he's like, now I want to do something serious. I want everybody in this room to stand up if you feel like you were shamed by Dr. Fauci. Stand up now, show yourself, as if they're like the Epstein survivors or something. And then like Laura Ingraham stands up looking somber, and all those people behind him who they had fill the seats stand up looking like somber. Like, oh yeah, Dr. Fauci hurt me, Dr. Fauci. And meanwhile, it's the biggest gaslighting. You have the people who were lying about the pandemic, who caused mass death, accusing the one guy who was just trying his freaking best to figure this thing out as it was evolving. Like, the whole thing, the whole scene is absolutely crazy. And I would say give Laura Ingraham an Oscar, but this acting was really shitty. I mean, give her maybe a Razzie or something. This is just F acting, terrible acting. Laura Ingraham, shut up.
What does she make? $30 million or $45 million a year?
She was shamed by Dr. Fauci.
Turn around and face them, Laura. Face them. But look, we need to. So let's also face reality. So with all of their crazy behavior, are they helping out the economy? They told us there would be 4% GDP growth, 5% by now. Actually, by the end of last year, they promised us all of these things. So what's the reality? State regime media, Fox. What was the second quarter GDP? What did it come in at? State regime media. Watch Fox Business give their report. Let's play it.
In line with estimates. Let's get to GDP. This is the first look we're getting at second quarter GDP, Maria. The first read is 1.5%, 1.5%. The estimate was a gain of 2.1%. So we're coming in a little bit light on this first look at second quarter GDP.
And the markets go crazy.
A little bit light. By the way, did you see that propaganda technique? Mm-hmm. While it's like in the like in the drug commercials and the prescription drug ads, while they're saying like, this drug may cause death, vomiting, diarrhea, they always have people like frolicking in a park and they're like on the beach and they're smiling and they're happy, right? You put the happy visual with like the worst news ever over it with the audio. That's what Fox is doing right there. They're putting the stock market being green and they're making sure that is full screen while they're talking about something completely different, because they just hope that their audience misses the reality that the economy has slowed to a crawl when these Trump officials for the past few years keep saying 6% growth. It's coming next year. It's coming right around the bend.
Right. I mean, the fact that Trump is judged by a participation trophy, if Biden had these numbers, I mean, you would see the markets crash and things would be absolutely, horrible. But like, you get a very horrible GDP printout right there, objectively, like bad, right? Especially relative to the promises that they were making. And then the market manipulation is just so crazy. All right, we're not negative. It's a good day. We haven't yet bombed Iran today, even though if you look at what's going on, Saudi Arabia did bomb the Houthis, and the Houthis say that they will be charging tolls in the Bab el-Mandab Strait, and we're not really sure what happened in Egypt anymore. Iran's blaming it on Netanyahu trying to do a false flag. We believed it was Iran that was striking this Damietta port in Egypt, but now Iran is saying that it was Israel, whatever. But we know that it was struck by a drone. We have footage of it being struck. But the market's like, all right, okay. Should we manipulate this one today? You know, Trump creates the dips from like bad, and then it's like, buy his own dips, everybody. It's ridiculous. So what else is going on? You've got Bessent, Treasury Secretary. Let's talk about what he previously said, just so we have the receipts. This was Treasury Secretary Bessent. This was what he was saying December 3rd, 2025. This was his prediction for GDP growth. Let's play it.
So I think we could be at 4% inflation, 4% real growth, and then inflation trending back towards target at 2%, so 6% nominal growth.
Last question.
Okay, well, not true, although he got the inflation part right.
Yeah, he had it right the first time.
He nailed it the first time with the Freudian slip. What about Kevin Hassett, July 1st, 2026? What do you predict, Hassett? Let's play it.
So we're cruising at about 3, and again, I expect the second half will cruise about 4.
4% growth in the second half.
That's right, yeah.
It's embarrassing. Even Bartiromo was like, 4% growth. Okay. You know, but she goes along with it. I mean, she's an Ingraham also. Then you've got Lutnick. He goes on CNBC, which has basically become a Trump propaganda network with a lot of their hosts. Not all of them. They got some good hosts. And this is what Lutnick said September 11th, 2025, what he said about the first quarter. Let's play it.
So now everybody knows their tariff, right? So now you're going to see factories get built in America at a scale that you have never seen before. Okay, more than $10 trillion of factory builds coming. All right. And so there's huge amount of construction jobs. So I would say the first quarter of next year will be the best quarter of construction jobs this country's ever seen. And that's going to roll all the way through 26. So I think you're going to see GDP growth next year over 4%.
You do 4%, 10 trillion over what period of time, Secretary?
Mr. Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States during his term.
Okay, and the way Mr. Donald J. Dude, that is Bernie Madoff nuclear version, like
Con
right
artists.
The worst. Here, I'll just show you one other clip of Lutnick before we get back into it. This was him on the all-in. This is like the finance bro all-in.
Yeah, if you want to know what's really happening with the markets, watch the All-In podcast.
Let's go all in. Let's go all in, everybody. And then he also does the creepy Lutnick voice from the Epstein Files voice, where he said that there was no, that he never visited Epstein Island, and it's the same. No, where he was asked about it, like, did you ever go and see him after that first visit? He was disgusting. Of course I didn't. He was gross. Okay, but now we learned you were there with your children. Exactly. That makes it worse. I never said it. You said you weren't there after you saw him one time. I never said I didn't go there with my kids. Yeah, it went worse than you going there is you. With your kids is double bad. I don't see it that way.
I know they don't believe in pronouns, but
this is what he says about GDP, about on this all-in podcast that he said last year. Let's play it.
Fives. You're going to see fives in the greatest economy in the world. You're going to see fives. And people think you can't. I mean,
like 5% GDP on a base this big is just, it's enormous.
Right. We have a $30 trillion. So 5% is 1.5 trillion in growth. And if we cut rates, you'll see sixes. And people would never, before Donald Trump walked into that office, don't think that's possible. And what's 6 mean?
Let's just put 6 in context.
Yeah, I'll put it in context. You're liars, you're frauds, you're con artists. I'll put it in perfect context right there.
I could smell the cigarettes off his breath, but this is the way he speaks, can you?
a few observations. Number one, there's something about these guys also in wearing shoes that don't fit them. Like if you just look at it, it just looks like their shoes don't fit. I know it's a stupid observation.
Well, there's the thing where Trump bought him the shoes with guessing their sizes.
Buys them shoes and that are a size bigger on purpose to make them feel that they can't fit into the size of their shoes, and that they'll wear shoes that don't fit them. But also they mix up all of their fraud schemes, right? Because Didn't they say they brought in $19.2 trillion also? So they're saying that the GDP growth from 1.5 trillion additional dollars would net us a 5 to 6% GDP growth, while Donald Trump said that he's brought in $19.2 trillion. So based on that analysis, shouldn't our GDP growth have actually been 70%, 70, 75 if they lower interest rates of 75% growth? Because that's essentially what it would be if you brought in $19.2 trillion. All right, let's take our first quick break of the show. A reminder. Can
I be honest about this Letnick guy?
I'll be honest.
I don't trust him.
I think that he may be a liar.
Don't trust him.
Everybody get your copy of WTF America. We have the QR code that you should scan right now. Just as we were three brothers in lockdown saying WTF in 2020 with the horrible way Trump handled the pandemic. Here we are, 2026. He's bringing back the old hits of mass deaths. And we're saying WTF, a distraction from the catastrophic war, distraction from the Epstein files by bringing back up 2020 pandemic, WTF. But order it now. It helps us determine where we should be sending more books to, where we're going to do our tour, where we're going to be. If you're going to get it in October, get it now. It just helps the planning that much more. And it's really helpful to the momentum behind this push. Scan it right now. Let's take a quick break.
It's 2026. America just turned 250 years old, and in 2.5 centuries, we've put men on the moon, invented muscle cars, built the internet, and automated almost every single piece of technology. But when it comes to the bathroom, most of you are still cleaning yourselves like cavemen. The Tushy bidet I have is a real game changer for me. The cleaning experience is amazing. I feel and am so much cleaner after using the Tushy bidet versus using TP alone. And the installation of the Tushy bidet was easier than I thought it was going to be. Tushy Bidets transforms your bathroom wellness for life, gut to butt to bowl. It soothes your bottom with instantly warm water that never runs cold. 99% of people who wash with Tushy warm water bidets feel cleaner and fresher after going to the bathroom. I can attest. Tushy Bidet gives you 2-in-1 benefits, reducing irritation and preventing micro tears with soothing water instead of scratchy toilet paper or damaging wet wipes. People who have made the switch to Tushy use up to 80% less TP. No more clogged toilets, no more wasting money on something that does an inferior job cleaning your body. Every Hello Tushy Bidet comes with a 30-day hassle-free return and a 12-month warranty. Air conditioning stops at your waistband. Stay fresh all day with Tushy. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code MeidasTouch at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with promo code MeidasTouch.
One thing I've definitely noticed as I've gotten older is that you wake up one day, look in the mirror and think, what's going on? Why do I look like this? Your skin just doesn't look as healthy as it used to. Maybe you've got more dark spots from the years in the sun. Maybe your skin looks rougher, less even, or just older than you feel. That's what led me to GU. That's spelled JIYU. What I like is that they make skincare incredibly simple. No 10-step routine, no spending 20 minutes in the bathroom. They're best known for their rejuvenation toner pads. These aren't your ordinary toner pads. Think of them as more like an entire Korean skincare routine packed into a single swipe. It takes about 10 seconds, which is about the maximum amount of effort that I'm willing to put into skincare. Wipe your face and move on with your day. I've been using them and I've genuinely noticed my skin looks healthier, smoother, and less tired. It just looks more refreshed. And that's exactly what I was hoping for. GU is designed to help improve the appearance of dark spots, acne scars, uneven skin tone, discoloration, fine lines, wrinkles, and rough texture. It's basically the low effort way to look more refreshed, more confident, and a little less worn down. A great way to cover up after a night of bad decisions. If you're trying GU for the first time, I'd recommend the Glow Up Bundle. It includes their best-selling toner polishing pads and moisturizer. It's dermatologist tested, trusted by over 650,000 customers, and comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. For a limited time, GU is having a crazy deal for our listeners. Their Glow Up Bundle is already up to 45% off right now, but our listeners can get an additional 20% off plus free shipping with our code Meidas. That's MEIDAS at GUSkin.com. JIYUSkin.com. That's JIYUSkin.com and use code Meidas, MEIDAS, for an additional 20% off. After you purchase, they will ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
Welcome back, everybody. Great to see you. Thank you to all of our sponsors. They support our show. Support our sponsors also. Scan the QR code above. Get your pre-order right now of WTF America. I very frequently wake up in the morning and think in the afternoon and think before I go to sleep, WTF America, but there is a way out of this hell, and it is a generational project that we all need to engage in. So Donald Trump held a WTF press conference earlier today where one would hope the commander-in-chief, though we have a commander-in-thief, you would hope that he would discuss what the hell's happening, with this war. I mean, I'll show you and the wars across the world right now. I mean, just to show you a little bit of what's kind of going on right now. This is some of the video coming in from Egypt as you have a drone striking the Damietta port right there. Let me show you this footage. Let's play it.
البريج كله اتدمر.
Okay, I'll direct our attention right now to Russia's war against Ukraine. I'll show you Penza in Russia, where a wild berries factory, that's the logistical facilities, like it's their Amazon. There's like 20 of them in Russia, and like 10 or 11 of them have been destroyed at this point by Ukrainian drones, those long-range FP1 and FP2s. Let me show you Penza right here so you can see it. Let's play it. Russia striking in Lviv, Western Ukraine, and as part of these Russian strikes, they also struck, or there was an area in eastern Poland where a ballistic missile landed, and these sirens over Lublin, which is in eastern Poland, were going off. Zelensky was in Lublin yesterday. In Poland, first, let me show you Lviv. This is Ukraine. Let me show you just so we could all see it. Let's play it. What? Also today in Kyiv, there was a U.S. manufacturing plant that was hit by Russia and intentionally targeted by Russia. Right there. Get you.
I gotta say, makes for a great audio podcast.
A Russian ballistic missile destroyed a Kyiv drone factory owned by a U.S. registered company, Terminal Autonomy, marking the first known Russian strike on a U.S.-owned company in Ukraine. The tension. I mean, there were other ones. Remember, there was like candy factories and other factories, but this is the first, U.S.-owned weapons company. The factory produced AI-guided attack drones. No one was reported killed, but this war is spreading. Notably, when I heard about the Lublin attack, Poland's response was very reminiscent of what the Arab nation responses are when the drones strike or the ballistic missiles from Iran strike these bases, right? What are they? It's always the interceptors were always 100% effective. And then if there were damage, it was the like drone residue or the, whatever, the debris. It's the debris. They say the debris hit it. And it's like, okay, stop. The debris. Yeah, it becomes debris once it hits. Then it becomes debris. But the drone or the ballistic missiles is not debris before it hits. So I'm not trying to get conspiratorial. I just think that Poland knows that if it invokes Article 5 or even Article 4, which is consultation, Article 5 is the Mutual Defense Pact of NATO, that the United States isn't going to abide by it. I think Russia wants to test the resolve of NATO. Will they invoke Article 5? And that's why Poland's pretending that, look, fortunately it didn't kill anybody as far as we know. And it did just kind of hit an open area. But I think it's being downplayed personally. So any event, with all of this taking place, by the way, as it relates to the Egypt strike in Damiata, right now Iran, through both MB Ghalibaf and Araghchi, are saying this is actually Israel that did it, false flag from Israel, in order to try to blame us, to draw Egypt in a bigger way. It's conflicting reporting there, but I want to give you at least the latest of what they're saying in Iran. But in any event, and by the way, Netanyahu is in the United States right now with Hegseth. And so Netanyahu stayed.
He's parked himself here. He was supposed to be in and out, but he's like, nah, I'm just going to stay, because I think he realizes that he's going to have a lot more influence face to face with the Hegseth, with the Trump, by being here, and he could actually dictate the terms of the war. Because I think what Netanyahu is acutely aware of is something that we've kind of known about Donald Trump for a while, is that oftentimes his opinion and his actions are based on the last person he spoke to. And so I think Netanyahu knows, well, I could speak to him on the phone and probably persuade him to increase a bombing campaign or do something. But then if somebody comes in the room right after I do the phone call, what was that?
MBS, or MBS's brother.
Yeah, then they say chill. And that is going to be what sticks with him. But if I'm there, if I'm always around, then I'm going to be able to kind of get around that. I'm going to be able to tell Donald Trump exactly what needs to be done here.
But that's why MBS sent his brother yesterday also did you notice that? And it's like, well, why would you personally, you can't just pick up the phone? No, because Netanyahu's not leaving. So that's why MBS sent his brother to the United, who happens to be the defense secretary. The Arab nations are run like the United States. It's like the brothers and the sons.
I was going to say, it's so sounding familiar.
So the brother shows up and speaks with Kushner, who tries to take over FIFA. We'll get to that one in a moment. But any event, look, so Trump is asked, he's at this press conference. He did this anti-immigrant press conference where immigrants can't be truckers because they don't speak the language, is what he says.
And midterm guys at the time, we're bringing out the greatest hits.
Bringing out the greatest hits. You can't have immigrants as truckers. It's got to be veterans. Why can't it be both? Why can't veterans be truckers, and why can't immigrants be? It has to be one or the other. For Trump, it's always a zero-sum game, right? But in any event, he's asked, I'll show you him running away, where he's asked the question, so we're going to be in this war forever? What's the status here? Let's play that clip if we got it.
Very much. Bye. Thank you.
So, if you heard the questions are, how long are we going to be in Iraq? How much Iran? Or Iraq. I could say it's a Freudian slip, but it isn't, because the U.S. and Saudi Arabia struck in Iraq. And it should also be noted that the U.S. basically controls the Iraqi army through the funding, but then you have an Iranian militia embedded within the army, which is who the U.S. and Saudi Arabia struck, and they killed IRGC people. And so you have this, the short of it is you have this massive regional war. And Brett, do you remember growing up when the type of footage that we're showing the strike at Damiata, the strikes in, Russia, the Russia strikes in Lviv? When we grew up, war was covered, and it was ugly. Kind of
nonstop.
Nonstop. Yeah. You'd have the people there with the hats, the same way they covered weather event, and we'd get the information. And now you have CENTCOM out there publishing things like the Strait of Hormuz. Do we have this post of CENTCOM? Just so people can see how ridiculous it is. CENTCOM, it's a social media post, but CENTCOM was doing it's true, false. And the false is the IRGC says it's dangerous to go through the Strait of Hormuz because the IRGC will potentially shoot your tanker if you use the Oman route. And they have that as false. Not that one. You just keep going. Just keep shuffling. Not that one. Yeah, no, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. It's one of them. But it's the CENTCOM graphic that but we'll show later. And then the CENTCOM also says the U.S. strikes did not hit, or that Iranian strikes did not hit certain air bases, Muwafiq, Salty in Jordan, Faisal in Kuwait. And it's like, we have the surveillance, we have the satellite footage. Like we know these bases were hit. And it appears that the F-35s were hit. It appears, that these hangars were indeed hit. There it goes. 17th time is a charm.
Gotcha, big bro.
This is just how you know this. How CENTCOM. This is how CENTCOM has zero credibility, and it's sad to say this, right? This is what CENTCOM says. First claim by Iran, false. The IRGC again claims free and open routes through the Strait of Hormuz are dangerous for commercial vessels. False. Fact. The immediate dangers posed to commercial vessels and their civilian crews are the IRGC's verbal threats and attempted attacks. Well, first off, that's a threat. Okay. Second, they've knocked out like dozens of tankers that we've seen. So if you're going to start off and say that it's false, that it is a false claim for the IRGC say that going through the Strait of Hormuz is not safe, I don't need to read on anymore. You're just Trump fraudy level, and that's what CENTCOM. It's sad.
I think we should send Trump through. I think Trump should go through. It's safe. It's a show everybody. Lead by example. Let's send him through the Strait of Hormuz.
Brett, a Qatari LNG tanker. I just want to tell people the facts. A Qatari LNG tanker, right? Because Qatar's suffering right now. They're struggling. Not suffering like, I think American people are suffering more, but Qatar's struggling. So Qatar sent its first shipment of liquefied natural gas through the Strait of Hormuz in weeks using the Iran designated shipping corridor. They negotiated this with Pakistan. This is interesting because before they were trying to use the route closest to Oman, and what was happening there? Someone's at the live right now. I'll go check it out in a second. But we had what would happen to those tankers? They would be shot. They would be hit hard, right? And so now they're using the other route. So we need to focus on the facts. So now when you tell me the casualty number is whatever, and you tell me the killed in action, I don't believe anything you're saying. This is CENTCOM. If you can't agree right now that at a bare minimum, the Strait of Hormuz is dangerous, if you think that's, then it's just enough. Everything you're saying is false. And Brett, we have a war and wars involving the world right now. It's deeply problematic. What do you make of it all?
I think it's deeply problematic, and I think it goes against everything that Donald Trump has said from the beginning since before his term. I mean, his big promises. Think about every single promise Donald Trump made, that everything was going to become affordable on day one. Prices were going to be cut in half. Your electricity bill was going to be cut in half. The war in Ukraine was going to end within 24 hours. There was going to be no new wars. The Epstein files would be released. You go through every single aspect of all of Donald Trump's promises, and he's failed on every single one of them. And not only failed, but he's made all of these things worse by his own doing. And you know what, Justin Wolfers, when we had him on, our chief economist here at MeidasTouch, who's we're working with his platypus economics. He's doing platypus. He's doing amazing work. He's brilliant, Justin. And with Justin, what really stuck with me from the last time you guys did a hot take together was he was saying, normally I 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, the economy really isn't attributed to the president himself. Like, he's maybe one piece of a larger puzzle. But this time you could definitively say that Donald Trump is to blame for all the chaos that we're seeing right now. You could trace everything back to his war, to his tariffs, to his coercive actions. Everything right now stems from one man. All the global chaos, everything that we're seeing, indisputably so.
Right. You take a look also what's going on. Iran's army, before we went live, says it struck the U.S. Sheikh Issa Air Base in Bahrain with attack drones targeting power generators, navigation systems, and support buildings. It claims the strikes caused significant damage to U.S. military capabilities in the region. It's striking these U.S. bases without much resistance at this point because the U.S. interceptors have been depleted. The PAC-3s and the THAAD, they're different systems. They're acronyms, and the PACs are the Patriots. The THAAD is has a whole long acronym. But the THAADs are 12.5 million each. Okay. And what Iran would do is it would send its Shahed drones or even decoy ballistics, and it would have 3 of these THAADs would shoot up. And it was like, even if they struck the ballistic of Iran or the Shahed, that was a big win for Iran, because it's like, you just spent $50 million on our $25,000, $50,000.
It's asymmetrical warfare, and it's what everybody's warned about. It's why Ukraine has been able to do so well going up against Russia, because they've been employing the same strategies in so many ways.
Except ballistics.
Yes,
Ukraine needs the interceptors for they don't have any capability on their own, because that's what Patriots are supposed to be used for, are the ballistics. Now they say we need immediately. I'm concerned. I really have I know there's a prevailing narrative of Ukraine is hitting all of these things. They are. But what concerns me is also what the Prime Minister of Poland said today. The next one, this is what he said. The next 100 days are going to be decisive and determine the course of the war. And it depends on Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Okay, that is a concerning thing. When I look at that, I go red flag, that's a worrisome concept to me, and I don't trust Donald Trump pretending that he may give Zelensky things. To me, it's all part of Trump's manipulation, where this doesn't work, that doesn't work. So now you kind of love bomb. I'll lure someone in. I'll say I'm going to give you the Patriots. But then what does he do? I mean, this is my opinion. Then he calls up Putin, I'm sure, I'm giving you my opinion, and says, hey, you know what we talked about? To me, that is a more likely scenario than Donald Trump helping. One more thing, Brett, and I'm sorry I'm blabbering. Even that Lindsey Graham legislation, the sanctions for Russia, I saw some people say, well, there's some Democrats who aren't supporting sanctions on Russia, and they give the list. What the hell's wrong with these people? If you actually read the legislation, it gives Trump the discretion to decide if he's going to impose the sanction, which he already has now. And what it does also is, if Trump claims that you could be aiding and abetting Russia in his own mind, he could tariff you or sanction you while not sanctioning Russia. So Trump has the power, if he wants to do what the legislation, but the legislation makes it discretionary. So the people who didn't vote for it, it's not that they didn't want sanctions on Russia. It's that they didn't trust anything that gives Trump the discretion on his own and opens up a path for Trump to do more tariffs, which is a more likely scenario than sanctions. That was the issue with that.
And have you guys seen the reporting also about this Trump erupting in meetings with his own aides about these wars? I mean, to me, this is probably the most concerning kind of piece of evidence that we have about this whole war. And frankly, it confirms everything we've been reporting, that Donald Trump is indeed panicking about this war. Donald Trump is panicking behind the scenes. He may get up to the cameras and he may say, we're going to beat the FNS out of them, or all, whatever he's telling Fox, Trey Yingst over at Fox, right? He may try to act like a tough guy, but behind the scenes, he's rudderless. Behind the scenes, he doesn't know what the hell to do. And behind the scenes, all of his aides have disagreements with the approach. And it's a very precarious situation that we're finding ourselves in right now. You have General Dan Kane, Raisin Kane, who Donald Trump calls him. He has one kind of view of the war. There's the Admiral Cooper guy who had CENTCOM. He has a different view of the war. Kane has been very worried, according to this NBC News reporting, about the dwindling amount of interceptors and Patriot missiles that the United States has, even though Trump, every time he gets on his social media app and stuff, goes, we have an unlimited amount. It's like a video game. We have unlimited amounts of interceptors. Well, Kane is like trying to tell Trump, like, we are running out fast. Like, this is not a good situation right now for us to be in. And that's leaving our troops in great harm in the region. And then you have Cooper just trying to get a word in with Trump. Apparently, he's not even speaking to Trump all that much. And you have Trump freaking out. The official who is the source, one of the officials, was one of the sources in this piece, described Donald Trump as exasperated exasperated. They said that he erupted during the meeting on his aides. He doesn't know what to do. He is incredibly frustrated. His back is against the wall. He really, in his heart of hearts, apparently believed that he would be into this and out of this, and that everything would go great and he would be fine and he'd be able to topple this regime. And now he's living the reality of what everybody warned him, and he's still trying to gaslight his way out of it. But this is how you know that he really does know the truth. The fact that you're actually getting this reporting that, yes, he is panicking behind the scenes. Yes, he is screaming at all of his aides behind the scenes. Yes, he doesn't know what the F to do right now. And that's why he's lashing out to Fox reporters going, I'm going to beat the FNS at him, because he doesn't know what to do at this point.
That's why I say he's panicking. But how do you know he's panicking? I know it's obviously that's why he says I'm beating the effing S out of you. We'll talk about that and more when we come back. Also, updates on Todd Blanche. A new poll from Fox State Regime Media shows James Tallarico up 3. You add that to some of the other polling of the United States Senate, whether it's Ossoff ahead, whether it's Sherrod Brown that's ahead. You know, you're looking around right now, and most of these polls have the Democrats taking control of both the United States Senate and the House of Representatives. A reminder, hit the QR code, scan the QR code, slap this QR code, blow kisses to the QR code, poke the QR code, pinky promise the QR code, stick a little booger on the QR code. Let's go pre-order it right now. WTF. We'll be right back after our last quick break.
You all remember when summer used to feel slower, happier even? The good old days. Well, somebody forgot to tell the news cycle, apparently, which is exactly why I've been getting more intentional about how I decompress lately. IndaCloud is a fully legal online cannabis dispensary for gummies, exotic flower, premium pre-rolls, zero sugar THC sodas, energy company, and extra strength sleep gummies. Everything is federally legal, hemp THC, lab tested, and shipped discreetly to your door. Because staying informed is important, but being on call for every headline, probably less important. Lately, it's another alert, another update, another reason to doom scroll. Sometimes you just need some space. I like the THC sodas for slowing things down while still staying present, and that midnight raspberry extra strength sleep gummies when my brain decides bedtime is the perfect time to replay the entire news cycle. Why does that always happen? The news never takes a summer break, but you should. If you're 21 or older, go to indacloud.co. That's .co, not .com, and use code Meidas for 30% off your first subscription order. That's indacloud.co, code Meidas for 30% off. Delivered routinely and discreetly to your door, plus free gifts and free shipping on qualifying orders. And don't forget to fill out the quick survey when you order to support this show. Enjoy responsibly, and huge thanks to IndaCloud for helping everybody stay informed without carrying the entire news cycle around all summer. You know what frustrates me about healthcare? Well, a lot, but also the fact that you could go to an appointment and get a few basic tests, hear everything looks fine, and walk out without really understanding what's going on with your body or what you should actually be doing differently. That's why I'm genuinely fascinated by Superpower, because instead of guessing about things like sleep, diet, supplements, or how you're aging, Superpower gives members a much deeper picture through 100 plus biomarkers. You can see information about your heart, thyroid, hormones, metabolism, vitamin and mineral levels, even your biological age and pace of aging. And I love that it's proactive. Superpower tracks your results over time, incorporates your medical and family history, and gives you an actionable, personalized protocol so you could actually understand trends and make informed decisions about your health. Make this year the year you stop guessing about your health with Superpower. For a limited time, our listeners get $20 off to unlock their new health intelligence. Head over to superpower.com and use code Meidas for $20 off your $199 Superpower membership. And after you sign up, they'll ask how you heard about Superpower. Tell them MeidasTouch sent you to support the show.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you to all of our sponsors. We're so grateful for them for supporting the show. Support our sponsors. You know, what says panic more than giving a phone call to State Regime Media Fox and telling them, here's what I want you to put out. Here's what I say. I'm going to blow the FNS out of them. I'm going to blow the FNS out of them. you're calling up Fox, going on the record. Isn't like on background or off the record. You're on the record with a media and regime media. Like they can package this for you in a way that's regime. Donald Trump says that he, whatever. No, I mean, this is the message that you want out there on your regime media. Here, let's play it.
President Trump tells Fox News about Iran, we are going to beat the effing S out of them. He went on to say, we'll be hitting them hard. They're going to get a beating. So clearly the United States is going to respond to what the president described as a surprise attack. He says U.S. forces.
Just to think about, and by the way, the surprise attack framing, you know, I think, and I apologize if I even went surprise attack and perhaps could have been a little more nuanced with it. It's surprise in the sense that usually the pattern is Trump strikes, Iran responds, then Trump claims fake deal, and then Trump strikes, and then Iran strikes. So this was Trump strikes, Iran strikes, and then Iran strikes. So it had a, you know, perfect fifth, perfect fourth, perfect third. You know, it had a little, that was from my class. It added in a perfect third. It had a little bit of a different rhythm, you know, to the normal kind of back and forth strikes. But the reality is that Trump's doing fake negotiations. So why, if Iran has a target of opportunity and it sees a radar or this or that, you know, it's gonna go by Donald Trump's deranged views of like, you know, like
I guess Trump's just counting on like, you know, if he doesn't do anything, they won't do anything. It's like you're still in a war. You violated the MOU, and the MOU isn't a thing anymore, and so you're in active war. And you know, this was one of the big disputes in that NBC news story that I was talking about. That was talking about Dan Kane and I was speaking about Admiral Cooper, who leads CENTCOM, and one of the, you know, Cooper was saying is that, you know, he's starting to think that these limited strikes that we're doing aren't really doing much. There have also been U.S. officials who have been saying, you know, telling the press that exactly what we've been warning about from before these strikes even began, all these kind of tit for tat strikes, that the more Donald Trump does these things, the more he's actually going to make it more difficult to achieve his objectives in this war, whatever the hell those objectives even are at this point, aside from opening the Strait of Hormuz, because all he's doing is he's strengthening the regime and he's building support behind the regime, and he's really not doing any damage to the regime, but he is killing civilians, which is only hardening the power of the Iranian regime and is also bringing the people in Iran closer to the regime. So everything that they're doing is actually having the opposite of effect. And one of the conclusions, unfortunately, that it seems like Admiral Cooper drew from all this is that that's probably because we're not hitting them hard enough. We gotta bomb them harder. If only we now bomb. If we did, I'm telling you, Donald, if we did one big, massive bombing campaign for a week, that we would end this. And that's just not going to happen. I don't think there's ever been an instance in history, ever in history, where an air bombing campaign alone wins a war. It's never happened before. It's not going to happen here. And I don't know why they keep thinking that they could bomb their way out of this situation.
Well, even their strikes yesterday in Keshem apparently killed a family over there, you know, an innocent family. You have MB Ghalibaf making a social media post before talking about, look, you just killed another innocent family in Keshem, and you are, Brett, to your point, I mean, constantly committing these war crimes over and over and over again, which regardless of, you know, the fact that it's even rallying people to the Ayatollah and turning public sentiment against, there's no public sentiment that wants this war. Even in the United States, nobody wants this. Why Trump's approval's at like all-time lows. Nobody wants to be in this with Netanyahu other than Mark Levin, but it's a war crime. You know, when we blow up the ships in Venezuela, those are war crimes. Those are war crimes that are taking place. And we covered the drop site scoop about the prosecutor from Ecuador who was assassinated, who was investigating the U.S. war crimes off the coast, which involved also people from Ecuador as well. When you look at Donald Trump's polling lately, I mean, it's as low as you can get across all of the major polling. It's 33, 34, 32. When you look at the subset of non-college white voters, that's Trump's crew, right? Plus 24 back in February of 2025, -8 right now. That's a new low. He's net negative on white non-college voters right there. But basically, you look at all voters. I mean, independents, he was like net negative 22 on every issue. Gas, net negative 58, net negative 50. I mean, his polling is as bad or worse than after the January 6th insurrection right now. As I told you, there was a Fox poll before. James Tallarico up 3 on Ken Paxton. I mean, I guess the old MAGA playbook of Talafrico and vegan and 6 genders, six gender. I just think, I mean, Ken Paxton's a guy who's a crook. He released child sex abusers. He got impeached by his own party. He's been indicted. He's like the worst human. Like he's Trump's crew.
Divorced him on biblical grounds.
He's Trump's crew. But
what's interesting about those attacks? I'm not saying they don't work, because I think they do have an impact for sure. When they do the culture war stuff, they do it for a reason. But I think the ironic thing about those attacks is they work a whole lot better when the economy's actually better, when things are actually better, when things are running smoother, and people actually can be redirected into those culture war games. But when the world is quite literally on fire, when the GDP is slowing to basically nothing, when inflation is going through the roof, I think people look at you trying to do Talafrico and transgender this, transgender that, and they go, shut the hell up. Like, stop. Like, we're all being beaten down by you. Now stop like trying to beat down, other communities as well. Enough of this crap. And ironically, it worked, and during Biden, because actually things were recovering and people were able to get a little bit of a breather at that point.
Yeah, well, look, and I don't want to paint the rosiest picture. Biden had to deal with Trump, right? And so there was high inflation the first, years.
Yeah.
That was a big problem, and Biden had to deal with it. And there was recovery from COVID. There was a lot of things that were going on that had to be dealt with. But there's a difference between dealing with problems and the House affirmatively being on just total fire. And if you think about, Brett, to your point, again, not to glorify, that everything was great and rosy and amazing, but you didn't have like a full house on fire. And so you were able to basically get in there into the house and shout to people, hey, I got a nicer house for you. That's that house, but it could be better. You want the bigger house? You want the nicer car? I alone can fix it. I can do it. And that's an argument that may appeal once people are like, oh, let me see, what house is that? The Mar-a-Lago, maybe you're promising me all of these things. Electricity bills are going to be half as much. Gas is going to be under $2. Housing is going to be affordable. There's going to be no wars. Oh, that sounds like a maybe a better house than the house I'm in. But right now, the house is on fire. The house is on fire. People know who the arsonists are because they're burning the house right now. I mean, we see Trump meeting with Netanyahu. We know who's doing it. We know where it's coming from. And then while the fire's taking place, the arsonists are going in and going, yoo-hoo, yeah, hey, everybody. What do you think about the transgender people? Okay, what do you think about Talafrico? What do you think about communists? What do you think about communist? And people are like, dude, shut up. That you're burning that. Take your freaking fire hose and put this thing out. We don't want to hear any of this crap. That's the moment that we're in. And also on the Democratic side, people, I think, don't want to even hear, well, are you going to move me 3.2 points to the center or 2.2 points to the this? And are you going to people like, where's your fire hose? Where the hell is your fire hose to put out this fire? And don't direct that fire hose up in the air. Direct the fire hose at the firehouse and show me you're going to get in there. And I don't care. Yeah, it's dangerous to get in there. Yeah, you may get hurt getting in there, but show me you're going to get in there and put out the damn fire, because if you're not going to do it, I want to know who's putting out the damn fire. That to me is the moment that we're going through right now. And who is out there fighting? Who is up there rolling up their sleeves, calling out the corruption, the criminality, and everything that's going on in plain view right now? And one of the things that I think we need to, talk about, first off, Todd Blanche. should not be confirmed, period, full stop. For every unethical, hard, the worst. Todd Blanche, in my opinion, shouldn't have a bar license for what that's generous. That, to me, that's heaping praise if saying he shouldn't get a bar license, because to me, it's far worse, the damage that this guy has done. He's way worse than Bondi. He's way worse than I think Gates would have been, right? In any event, you have the two Republican senators who Trump screwed over, Cornyn and Tillis. They're holding out and saying, we're not going to confirm you until you put something in writing that you're going to void Trump's collusive settlement with the government, where Trump gets a super pardon, where Trump gets a super pardon. So there's no tax audits and there's no criminal investigations into his tax evasion. And Trump gets a free pass and, gets to not have any investigations into him there. And then there's a January 6th slush fund for $1.776 billion. And Blanche and DOJ,
the lowest bar.
Yeah, they've said, we'll make the oral representation that we're not going to enforce the settlement agreement. But Cornyn was a former Texas Supreme Court justice before becoming a United States senator. He knew what was going on. I mean, I guess I would give him a little bit of credit, but certainly not give him lots of credit. So he was like, got it. So the reason you're saying you'll make an oral representation but not a writing is because in the settlement agreement between Trump and the government, Trump and his individual asset, it says the only way this gets overturned is if there is a written instrument. So you're preparing Trump to have the no written instrument loophole, no written document loophole. They made the oral representation, but there was nothing in writing. So therefore, this agreement was still enforceable. That's the gimmick. That's a Trump stunt. That's so Trumpy right there, right? That was their plan. Cornyn identified, and Cornyn's like, look, just put it in writing. Just put it in writing. You say you're not going to enforce it, so put it in writing that you're not going to enforce it. And Blanche is like, as far as we know, Blanche is like, well, there's nothing I can do about it right now. And Cornyn and Tillis are like, well, what's going on? They also want to they're like, somebody in Trump's orbit, maybe it's Trump. Maybe it's Trump in Trump's orbit is the one telling Blanche, absolutely not. Maybe, I don't know, Donald Trump made a post this morning saying that, well, we're not going to, maybe we won't even have Blanche confirmed until after the midterms, where Trump suspects that Republicans will control the United States Senate still, and then we'll get his confirmation done after the midterms once Tillis and Cornyn are gone. Well, at least with Tillis, it seems pretty clear that Tillis is going to be replaced by former Governor Cooper, and you'll have a Democrat in that seat now in North Carolina. And it's possible Cornyn, after Trump endorsed Paxton, is going to be replaced by Tallarico based on the current polling. And if you look at, places like Iowa, Josh Turek, great ad that he just had with Obama. I've had him on.
Really good.
Incredible. Paralympian basketball player, incredible guy. He's up. Sherrod Brown's up in Ohio. Ossoff's up. And then these people have pretty significant leads as well, so.
The craziest thing, though, is you look at the polling, right? And I know how people feel about polling. I feel the same way. You never know with the polling, right? But you look at polling, you look at the environment that it appears that we are in on these generic polls, where you're seeing Democrats plus 12 or more on a lot of these polls, like nightmare scenario for Republicans when you look at the data. But then you turn on the news, and I feel like all of the news is like just constant stream of Democrats in disarray, Democratic catastrophe. What are these Democrats doing? Look at all this infighting. And like you said, direct your fire hose where it's supposed to be, okay? We got a freaking fire burning in front of us right now. How about we pay attention to the fascist threat that's in front of us, beyond a threat, the one that's all consuming right now? How about we pay attention to these various fraudsters, these corrupt individuals who are continuously trying to take over our government? And how about we actually look at the data, at what's going on, and acknowledge the fact that this is actually quite a good environment right now heading into the midterms for the Democrats, and it's the Republicans right now who are actually in a very, very bad position.
We'll leave you on that optimistic note. WTF, huh?
WTF.
WTF. Pre-order right now, wherever you can see it. Pre-order the book, WTF America. Thanks for spending this time with us. It was great seeing you. But if you pre-order, it helps us a lot decide where we're going to maybe go on a tour, where we're going to visit. It really helps with the momentum of this book. We get the data from the publisher, and the book has a great deal of momentum right now. We just got to keep it going. So pre-order it right now. Hit the QR code, wherever the QR code is, and put in the comments WTF if you did the pre-order. Recommend it to people that you know. Tell us, I've recommended it to my friends and blah, 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 my family. We appreciate you. Look, we wrote this book with you in mind. We dedicate it to you on the very first page of the book, The Meidas Mighty. And this book's not possible without you. And it's our kind of enduring philosophy of the Meidas Mighty method. And so I think you'll really appreciate the fact that it's really a community-driven book. With that said, thank you, everybody. Keep checking back for all of the updates that we do here throughout the day, every 90 minutes or so. Sometimes we've been on a 2-hour cadence, but every 90 minutes, 2 hours, we got new videos. Check it out. Oh, I'll just quickly talk about FIFA because I didn't say it. You had the holdco that was being formed by Gianni Infantino with the Kushners to bring in a 20% sale of the FIFA World Cup. This is just another kind of Trump Kushner scam. You had UEFA in Europe, CONCACAF as well in North America, Central America, all of the kind of Western hemisphere. You had 41 countries in CONCACAF, UEFA, all the member countries in Europe, the U.S. football program, basically saying hands off. It's a no confidence vote for Gianni Infantino as well. He may have to go now, with this scam. And yet again, it was just something where it was, not because of Trump or Infantino, they made this World Cup weird, but the best parts were when people could just enjoy sport, and it brought people together in spite of Trump and Infantino and Giuliani trying to screw it up. But then they're like, how do we ruin this good thing even more? How do we ruin it? It's like, let's sell it off to private equity. And it also is important to note they're doing this with kids sports as well. These right-wing MAGA extremists, I'm sure you're seeing, raising up the price of children's sports to make it inaccessible.
Sick.
That it's sick. Housing, that's who they are. They want data centers in your backyard. They want to take away children's sports. These are real things. It's not fear-mongering. They're telling you they're doing it. They want to take away. They're like, men and women's sports. They're taking away children's sports. They're taking away FIFA. They're taking away. We'll leave you on that note. Thanks, everybody. Hit the QR code. Appreciate you. Shout out Meidas Mighty. Have a good one.
The Meidas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
Breaking news right now. My brothers and I wrote a book. It's called WTF America. And well, doesn't that just say it all? It comes out officially this October, but you can pre-order your copy today. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description below.